how to get out of a funk. And many of us have been in a funk or are in a funk right now. We just kind of feel like we're not feeling our best or we feel stuck in some way, shape, or form. Do you feel like you're stuck in a funk? Like things are not going your way? Like you're not who you truly want to be? Like you're not actualized, like you're not getting to the part where everything is like flowing and it's the montage scene of the movie. Instead, you're just kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. Sometimes indecision can make you feel like you don't even know how to get out of your car, off the couch. You can be just stuck in an aisle looking at peanut butter flavors or brands, trying to figure out what am I going to buy? We get caught in a funk in our life, feeling like we're not accomplishing what we want to accomplish. We're not who we want to be. We don't feel good. If we're honest, we're not feeling happy. What can we do about this? Well, I want to tell you about the ancient legend of the village of Hmong. And the village of Hmong is a fictional village somewhere far out east. And there were these young men, they had this tradition where at a certain age, all the young men would go into this cave outside of the village and they would meet with this elder. And then the elder would bestow gifts upon the young men. And then the young men would take the gifts and they would use these gifts for the betterment of themselves and the betterment of their village. So they would take these gifts that they would get from the elder and use them for the betterment of themselves and the betterment of their village. So it was a very exciting time as a coming of age for these young men to go in before the elder and receive their gifts. And there were two brothers who were twins. So at the same time, they were going in to receive their gifts. And they were at the end of the line, so they got to see all the other young men coming out with the gifts. And some of these young men were coming out with some really exciting stuff. Some had sturdy sandals, some had bows and arrows. Others were coming out with swords. Some had knives. There were just some really cool stuff that these guys were coming out with. So the twins were excited about what their gift was going to be, and they both went in together since they were brothers of the same age, as was instructed. And each of them was given by the elder a big egg, just an egg. And to be honest, the brothers didn't want to be ungrateful, but they were a little disappointed because they saw everybody else had the cool gifts that they were bringing out. Like one guy got like a really big club for smashing, and they're sitting here with the egg. And the elder told them, "Take care of this egg. You need to keep it close to your body so that it gets body heat. One egg for each one of you." And so the brothers walked out of the cave with their eggs, and some of the other boys kind of snickered, like, it's kind of funny that they have eggs. That's weird. And so while the other boys were practicing with their swords in the days coming and practicing with their knives and their bows and arrows and using their sturdy sandals to climb mountains and go on adventures, the twins were stuck at home holding their eggs close to their body and a little confused as to why, of everything in the universe that they could have gotten, they just got a couple of eggs. Well, one of the brothers had had enough. He wanted some of the action that was out there. And so he took his egg and he went out and he wanted to play with the kids who were playing with their swords. And he wanted to play with the kids who were playing with their bows and arrows. But when he went to try out one of the kids' bows and arrows, he accidentally dropped his egg and the egg broke. As a result, whatever the creature was that was inside the egg also died. And now the boy had no gift. However, his twin brother had a different attitude. His twin brother really took to the assignment, of nurturing the egg. He would sleep next to the egg. He would keep the egg close to him all day. He would keep body heat on the egg. If he couldn't be right on the egg, he would cover it with blankets. And as the months passed by, eventually this egg hatched. And out of the egg came a baby pterodactyl. Now, that might sound a bit frightening to us, but as a baby, a pterodactyl was quite cute. And so when the pterodactyl looked up at the boy who was given this egg to care for, it immediately bonded with the young man as its mother. And so the young man and this pterodactyl had this bond, and he would spend time training the pterodactyl and getting close to the pterodactyl. And eventually, the pterodactyl was able to fly, and the pterodactyl became capable of doing tasks, like it could go out and get things. And so, while the other young men were out on their hunting expeditions, where they would have to spend a day or two, or sometimes several days, getting a big kill with their bows and arrows and their swords, well, this young man with his pterodactyl would send it out, and the pterodactyl would come back in just a matter of hours with some big kill in its mouth, and half the village could eat off of what this young man was able to get. Meanwhile, his twin brother, who had busted his egg, became filled with jealousy and bitterness and just moved outside of the village to live alone into the mountains. He was not happy with his decisions in life. But this young man with the pterodactyl, as the pterodactyl grew older, the pterodactyl was able to actually carry people in the village, so it became like a transportation service. As a result, everyone was constantly trading and giving to the young man to get rides from the pterodactyl. The pterodactyl could also transport goods and help with building projects, which benefited the village very greatly. And again, everyone's giving gifts and trading and paying this young man who has a pterodactyl. He became the richest man in the village. All from that egg. So what's the moral of the story? Well, some of us feel like we got a big fat egg. And that's really the attitude that we have. That's the way we look at our life, our gifts. We just feel like, man, I got a big egg. This isn't good at all. Maybe we're upset about things we can't control. Things about our physical health, our physical appearance, things about our financial status, our wealth, our privilege. Maybe we're upset about the people in our lives. Maybe what's got us in a funk when we're really analyzing it is that we're actually connected to a toxic person who's bringing us down, or toxic people who are bringing us down, because you're wanting to have that good relationship with them. You're wanting to foster a good relationship, and you're trying and you're desiring it, but you're not actually getting it. The good relationship never actually comes. And as a result, you're frustrated. What happens to us when we get in a funk is we're kind of like that first young man who didn't appreciate his egg, and instead he went out and tried to play with the other gifts. What happens to us is we start focusing not on what we have, but on what we don't have. Think about it. At the root of your depression is a perception that there's something in your life that's unacceptable, and you're powerless to change it. Again, at the root of your depression, think about your situation. What's really got you down is that there's something in your life that you perceive as unacceptable, and you feel powerless to be able to change it. But that perception is happening not because there's something in your life that you're powerless to change that's unacceptable, because there is something unacceptable in every person's life that they are powerless to change. So that's not the reason why you're having that. The problem is that that is your focus. Subconsciously, you're trying to live your life. Yes, you're putting on a mask, you're putting on a face, you're high functioning as a depressed person, you're going out and getting stuff done. But subconsciously, you just keep coming back to this thing in your life that you can't change. And as a result, it's got you stuck. and it's making you depressed. It's bringing you down. And as a result of focusing on everything you do not have, you will lose what you do have. It's a law of the universe. To he who has little, even what he has will be taken away from him. If you focus the energy, the precious energy of your mind on something that is not in your possession, which is what I call the infinite void of things you do not have and cannot control. When you put the precious energy of your mind there, what you do have, you will lose. Like an egg, it will fall to the ground, it will crack. What is inside of it will die, and you will have nothing to show when the inevitable time passes. But if you switch your perspective and you get out of the maladaptive, you can cultivate your egg and build it into something beautiful. It was never a part of the deal that you were going to be able to control everything. That was never part of the deal. There was no contract that you signed like, yeah, I'll be born into this life, but I'm going to need to be able to make sure I have absolutely everything that I want and need. That was never a part of the deal. And so for you to actually sit now and focus on that one thing in your life that you cannot control, that one person in your life that you can't get to be better, that one relationship that you can't make work, on a spiritual level, it lacks gratitude. You don't mean it that way, because in reality, our sadness is an expression of our goodness. So you don't mean harm in being sad. It is an expression of your goodness. Did you know that? That your sadness is an expression of your goodness? What we are sad about is what we really truly care about. It is impossible to be sad about something you don't care about. It's an expression of who you are. That's what your sadness is. That shows who you are. You can't be sad about something you don't care about. Try to think of something you don't care about. Can't be sad about it. If you don't watch basketball and then the Denver Nuggets loses, as much as you you can't. I can't cry. You can't be sad because you don't care about basketball because you don't watch it. You understand? You cannot be sad about what you do not care about. So your sadness is an expression of what you care about, and therefore an expression that you are a good person, if you are a good person. Because I suppose a wicked person would be sad that they can't commit genocide. And so that's just an expression of their badness. But with you, look at what you're sad about. You're sad that you can't have a good relationship with your mom. So you're wanting something beautiful and positive. You're sad about the situation in the Middle East. So you're wanting something good and positive, showing that you're a good person. You're sad about the death of a loved one, or that a loved one is experiencing a loss in their life. You see, exactly what it is you're sad about is just showing who you are. It's just showing that you're a good person. So it's nothing to be ashamed of. But we do have to stop and healthily detach. What are we detaching from? We need to detach emotionally from what we do not have and cannot control. We don't have it, can't control it. So there's no point on focusing on it. In fact, on the deepest level, in the energy form, you are responsible only for what you have power over. So if there's something in this universe that you have no power over, then in equal measure, you are not responsible for it. So this is your moment. This is your permission to let it go. You cannot be responsible for what you don't have power over. So no need to focus any longer on it. You can let it go. So what is your method of high functioning depression that you've been resorting to? Have you been resorting to distractions to get you through? Instead of refocusing on what you can do, you scroll through social media until you fall asleep. You play music constantly or watch television so you don't have to be alone with your thoughts. You run away from being by yourself. So you just run into crowds of people and run to be with your brother and your sister and your mom and your dad. You just always had to be with people. I, I can't live alone. You say, I can't live by myself. You got to always have some people around you. Is that what you do? What is your form of high functioning depression? Are you wearing a mask, trying to make it look like everything's okay? Do you try to go through life making it seem like you're fine when you know that you're going home and crying yourself to sleep? What have you been resorting to? Do you find yourself irritable so that small little problems that would just be normal work problems or life problems, you're taking them as very large issues, crises in your life, and you're falling apart over them? Whatever form of high functioning depression that you've been resorting to, cut it out. Cut it out. We don't need to cope our way through this life. We can actually thrive and excel. We don't need to merely cope. Okay? We don't need to merely cope. What we need to do is let's turn off the distractions for a moment. Let's turn off the music. Some of you have music playing right now while you're watching me because you just don't want to accidentally have a moment where I'm silent and then you have to hear your thoughts. Okay, so instead of running away from our thoughts and running away from our perceptions, let's confront head on the real problem. There's something in our life that's unacceptable and we feel powerless to change it. So what's the antidote to the situation? It's to get busy on doing what we are capable of doing. In other words, we're going to switch our focus, switch our perception to what we do have control over. Because you have the ability to do things and pursue things that will bring you joy. You realize that. Just the fact that there's something sad or unacceptable in this universe doesn't mean that you've lost the ability to go out and pursue things that will bring you joy. More so things that will bring you purpose. Okay? So the pursuit of purpose is the pursuit of a loving goal that will be good for you and good for others as well. The pursuit of purpose is the pursuit of a loving goal that will be good for you and others as well. It's you using your gifts. So the pursuit of purpose puts you in the mindset of powerfulness. And when you're powerful, then we can be happy. That's what gets us out of our funk. The funk is because by factory design, you as a human, you were not made to be powerless in all regard. So when you focus on this powerless mindset, your factory setting is depression. Like, oh, I feel powerless. I can't control anything. And then you're going to feel depression and you're going to get stuck. So we need to switch the focus of your mind, right? So let's get the subconscious focus here. We're going to let this go. We're going to healthily detach, okay, from what we do not control. We're going to put the focus here on what you do control. So if you're taking notes right now, get your pen, make a little list. On top, you can put what I can do right on the top of that list, and then start writing things that come to your mind of what you could do, of what you want to do, of what you want to produce. I got the privilege of experiencing depression once. And interestingly, it was at the time that I achieved all my goals. I had retired. My wife and I, we lived in South America and we were doing the ministry full time. That was what I always wanted to do. We were just serving others in the community. We were part of building a church and just like giving. It felt great. It was everything I wanted, but yet I was depressed. And I was a little surprised. Why was I feeling depressed? I'm here serving where there's a need. I'm useful. People appreciate me. Well, almost everyone. My wife didn't appreciate me. She hated me. Therein lies the problem. Yeah. So back in the recesses of my subconscious mind, there was an issue that I saw as unacceptable, which is that my marriage wasn't good. My relationship with my wife wasn't enjoyable, that she was emotionally abusive, and I couldn't change it. And that's why the depression was really setting in at this point. Because I always thought maybe if I made more money and maybe if I did retire us and maybe if we did move to South America, maybe if we were doing the ministry full time and maybe I'd done all the maybes. If I'm not mistaken, I was barely even 30 years old. I'd accomplished everything, but she still wasn't happy. And that made me feel unhappy. And so I expressed it to my narcissistic wife, and then she used it as a basis to make herself seem like she's higher than me, because then that means that I'm suffering from mental illness and she's fine, right? And then when I saw that it couldn't be appreciated by the world around me, my sadness, it made a deep impact on me because our sadness is an expression of who we are. And when you can't get any sympathy for your sadness, it could potentially be devastating. And in my case, I took it as motivating. It's like, well, then what's the good of expressing this if it's just going to be actually used against me? And she's going to use this as a basis to talk about me. And so I decided to get focused on what I could do to make myself happy. And I completely just ignored the narcissist and I focused on what I could do. And as a result, I started getting deeper into some career goals and some creative pursuits that I had kind of put to the back burner. I had been making films and been into filmmaking since I was 13 years old. But of course, being a husband with a wife, I had to be responsible and I couldn't pursue that passion. Well, no more of that. I started to pursue my passion. I started writing a film script. And next thing you know, we were back in the States and I had a whole film crew and we're outside and I barely had any money to pay this film crew. But I scraped along and it was so hard. And my wife gave the biggest funky attitude to make it as difficult as possible. But I pushed through and I got a film done. And that was valuable to me. That was fulfilling to me. I pursued purpose. And now I'm so proud. That film is still in publication. It's on Amazon right now. Now I actually have experience making a film, something that was a true passion for me. I got focused on what I could control. I'm not saying I was jumping up and down with happiness. That didn't come till the divorce. But in that moment, I got busy working on what I could control, focusing on what I could do. And by moving forward and creating that forward momentum, there was no more funk. Now there was just forward movement in my life. Now I was just accomplishing the impossible. And man, that was nearly impossible. I almost died, figuratively speaking, trying to get that thing done. It was almost as hard as when I created this app. up until up until I built this app, that was the hardest thing I had done. But I just kept moving forward and doing new projects and things that would fulfill my creativity. And now this app is available on Google Play Store, Apple App Store. If you download it and you log into it, it's going to help you with your depression. It's going to help you to overcome this funk, to get out of this funk that you've been in. And how are we going to do that? Every day on there, I drop daily video and edification. It's going to help you elevate your mind. There's also a daily meditation. Do the meditation each day. The meditation will help your brain to get rewired. There, we're working at the theta state, which is where the brain waves are slower. So we're going in and rewiring the thinking. In all cases, our depression is linked to our maladaptive thinking, the cognitive distortions. So we have to go in and get the rewiring going, right? And that's what we're doing at the meditation level. So the guided meditations that I have on the app available for you are going to be enormously helpful. There's a section in there where you can do the JAP method inside the journaling session, and even a weight method chart that you can use to make decisions. If you need explanations of these things on YouTube, there's a video that explains how you can use the app. The app is there and it's free to help you to get out of your funk. Will you take action? Will you make a change? Like the young lady who was here in the beginning of the meeting, she said, I was in a funk, but then I listened to your talk on purpose, and now I'm moving forward. She made the change. I appreciate the credit, but she is the one who said, I'm going to apply this. I'm not just going to listen to this and be like, he's right, and then do nothing. I'm going to apply this in my life. And she did. She put it into action into her life. And now she feels like she's not just stuck in the funk anymore. You can take the action. And every year when I do another impossible project, I'm doing it in part to demonstrate to myself and to you that you can take your egg and you can nurture it and you can grow it into something that's beautiful, that's useful, that can help people, that can help you. So take this as your cue to focus on your gifts, to build on what you've been given so that you can soar like the owner of the pterodactyl. And yes, I saw someone asking where that story came from. I made it up. It's a fictional story that I made up. But now I can become a legend, so you guys can tell that story to your grandchildren.